If there was one takeaway that our prospect was going to have every step of the way, it was not a waste of their time to be engaging with us.
You are listening to The Deal Breakdown with Derek Chevy, where we spotlight the best deals out there in B2B sales, from the open all the way to the close. Welcome to the B2B Deal Breakdown podcast, where we give you the play-by-play on some of the best deals out there. I'm Derek Chevy, and I'm excited to be meeting with Josh Roth. He's a senior business development manager in the SaaS industry. Thanks so much for being here, Josh.
Thank you very much for having me, Derek. I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited you're able to be on this. So let's get a little bit more about you. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so started my career in the sports industry at the New York Mets. Started as an inside sales representative. So I was pretty lucky to be closing deals right off the bat when I started my sales career. Moved up to an account executive and then a manager of premium sales. The manager role was really more of a player coach role, not a full-fledged sales leader at that point. Moved into a sales leader role as the director of sales at RSC Solutions, and then moved into a VP role at a small startup, Series A startup called CarePoint. That was my first SaaS experience that I got. And from there, moved over to a small company called MNet Health, and now I'm at Walkme.
Nice. So you went from selling tickets to the Mets games to, what was the next place? RSC
Solutions. So basically that was my first step into tech. They weren't kind of your prototypical SaaS company. They were trying to migrate into SaaS, but a lot of that was kind of selling managed services within tech.
Interesting. So you went from tickets and getting people to do season tickets and buying in bulk to completely a whole different industry. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So then how long have you been in sales in general?
So, if you look in my background, I've probably been in just overall sales for about 12 years. I've been in B2B sales for about 9.
Okay. And then for the company you're with now, how long have you been there?
So I've been at Walkme for about 6 months. So still somewhat new, but definitely have my feet under me at this point.
Nice. But you're in the city by the bay, San Francisco. Awesome.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit more about Walkme and what it is you sell, the challenges your offering solves, and the industries you serve.
Sure. So, I like to think of Walkme as kind of like a compass for software. Walkme will tell you like specifically how to use the software, how to get the most out of it. I often think about like how really like you get a new piece of software and then you're supposed to be able to use it like an expert. And it's challenging.
Yeah, that never happens.
No, it never happens. Yeah. I remember when I first got Microsoft Dynamics when I first started at the New York Mets, and it was like a foreign concept to me. I had no idea how to use it. To me, it really stopped me from selling instead of looking at it as a helpful tool to help me sell. And it really took me 3 years on Dynamics to become a real expert on that. I went from basically being resistant to it for a year to using it well enough that I could just get by for the second year. And the third year that I was at the Mets was really when I started becoming an expert and understanding how to really weaponize your CRM. Walkme lets you weaponize any piece of tech as an overlay to allow you to be really an expert on day one.
Wow. Makes sense. I mean, I think typically people will go to YouTube and search for hours to try to find like the how-to video that works best for them. And you even look at it and you go, is this even a new version of it, or has there been updates? And yeah, I can see the benefits for sure. So for industries, is it everyone then? Anyone?
Anyone and everyone. That's our game.
Nice. It's good. It's nice to have an offering that you can you go to a company and you basically ask them how they run their business, and what legacy systems are they using. And then you got an in, right?
You're spot on. I mean, it's really anyone that uses any form of tech, anyone that has a CRM could be a client of Walkme.
Great. I like that. I'm gonna have to check that out. So with this particular deal you're gonna talk about today, why did you choose this specific deal?
Yeah, so I chose this deal because it was a long, winding road where multiple mistakes were made, but we were able to overcome those mistakes by identifying the need of the prospect and being able to speak to how we can solve their problem, as opposed to doing a product pitch or kind of jamming product benefits down their throat.
Nice. I'm excited to hear about it. So what size deal are we talking about here?
Yeah, so this was a six-figure deal, not in the seven figures, but a six-figure deal for 12 months, and there was about 5,000 total users.
Nice. So I guess to put it in context of a person's budget, a salesperson's budget, how large a deal would this represent? 1 month budget, a quarter budget, a full year budget? Like what would be?
This is probably representing like in between a quarter and 2 quarters budget.
Okay. That's a huge deal, right? You close this one and you're half the year through already done.
Correct. So the salesperson that was on this deal, he made quota just off this deal.
Nice. And he basically took the next couple months off then, right?
We don't want to say that live on a podcast, but
yeah. That's typically, you're excited about closing a deal like this. It's great.
Yes.
Now, on a typical month, how many deals would you say are people close, to hit their budget?
Yeah. So, at this specific company, this was one of actually our first larger deals. We were closing probably 5 deals a month. But this represented in exponential growth in the size of the deal that we were closing.
Wow. That's huge. So the average salesperson to hit their monthly quota does about 5 deals a month to hit it. And this one deal put them at their half year budget.
Yeah.
Basically. Awesome. Well, this is great. Well, how did you guys find this deal?
So this deal actually came through a network connection of our CEO. So he knew someone that made the introduction, but it was not enough of a deal to give us any form of confidence.
Wow. So it was just the CEO getting out there and just who they knew came up to him and saying, "Hey, I want to check it out for our company it was for them, obviously, right? Who reached out."
Correct. It was, so the connection was made, and it was a strong enough potential fit that we were able to take the first step, which launched us in, but it was not a strong enough connection for us to feel confident that we would get any more than a 30-minute introduction call.
Oh, nice. Well, so tell me about that. Tell me about what was that first touch like? The first prospect in touch.
The first touch. So to give you a sense, and the reason I chose this deal is really because we were a small company. Like we were a small 50-person, pre Series A, post seed company.
Okay.
And we had made a number of mistakes within a number of other sales processes. And what I mean by that is a lot of, here's what we do, here's what we are, buy our stuff.
Right.
This was really the first meeting that we had that we were able to take a step back and say, what are some goals for you guys? What are some problems you guys are currently looking to solve? We just wanted to seek to understand as opposed to jamming down the throat. And I think that that was really the first big step that we took in this deal. And it was also one of the first sales calls that I was on, little nudge there, little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And the prospect really was relaxed from the get-go. It was much more of a conversation as opposed to, let me break out a deck, let me show you everything that we do.
Got it. So for this first touch, it was already it wasn't a meeting. You didn't have to schedule anything because it was the introduction was had.
The introduction was had. So we scheduled, this call off of the introduction, and we really got on, and the first thing that we had asked was like, hey, like, can you tell us a little bit about what your goals are in your role, between now and the next quarter or two. We really just wanted to understand like what they were going through,
Yeah.
and what their, I guess, objectives were for the next couple of quarters. So we started talking, to give you a sense, in Q1 of 2018. Just to get an understanding, the deal was closed in, I want to say it was right around Halloween of 2018. So
Wow.
this was about a 9-month sales cycle, roughly.
Nice. And then what title were you working with?
This was a director of product quality.
Interesting. Okay. And that was that the same person you went with the whole way? That you
Mainly, yes. There was, we had occasionally like a VP would hop in.
Yeah.
And then in the final kind of whiteboard session, we did have a very large panel where there was 2 C-level executives, 3 different VPs, and then a number of directors and managers. But throughout the process, this was mainly just speaking to the director of product quality.
Nice. Now, was this at Walkme when you were there?
This was not, no.
Oh,
this,
okay.
This was prior to me starting at Walkme.
Okay. So the challenges in this situation, I'm just thinking about how you're offering, like what challenges were you looking for the thing that you were selling? Like how did that connect?
Yeah, the challenges that we were looking to solve for was really just engagement from their customers. There really wasn't A, engagement, nor B, loyalty within their customers. And so those were the 2 main challenges that we were solving for. But if we had gone in with an approach of, hey, Derek, here's what we do, and here's all this stuff, you may have missed it. You may have said, okay, that's great that's what you do. Instead, we approach with, hey, tell us about some of the challenges that you're currently experiencing. And they had said, look, to be totally honest, we have, X amount of customers. We've got, hundreds of thousands of customers, but the vast majority of them are not loyal, nor do they engage. They engage when they need to, and then they pop out and we don't hear from them for years.
Yeah.
So for us, that was like gold. That was like, great. Now we know this. Now we can start to tie what we do to fitting and filling this need.
Absolutely. I mean, if they're not getting any sort of engagement from their customers, the customers can churn very easily.
Exactly.
That loyalty is important.
Exactly.
Sounds like huge value. Now, that first appointment though, that initial, connection that you guys had with the customer, since there's such a long sales cycle, what did you close for? Like, what was the next step after that meeting?
Yeah. So basically every single time what we made our goal was to just get next steps. Like
right.
If we had next steps, we were happy. So typically the way our team closed on every call was, hey, Derek, thank you very much for your time. Tell me, what do you suggest would be the best next steps here? We always made a recommendation. You would say, like, in our eyes, the best next step here is getting together for an in-person meeting, in a week or 2 weeks. And they would come back and say, either, yes, that makes sense to do an in-person meeting, or no, I think we can do this over the phone. Generally, the way they ran was 1 in-person meeting, 1 Zoom meeting. And that was pretty consistent throughout the process. Typically, we would always want to meet faster than they were ready, which makes sense. They're a
Sure.
Multi-thousand person company,
right.
And we're 50 people. So we worked a lot faster. And typically the way we learned to run it was set next steps, get the next steps, check in roughly a week kind of early, as more of a value add, like, hey, here's what we think is currently happening. Is this currently happening? Here's what we've done. And then with the confirmation that the prospect gave us, we would then scurry off, try to over deliver on the next meeting, and just ensure that they deliver the right information. And those, you never want to check in. That's never a value add. but those kind of de facto check-ins or value adds was actually really critical to securing this deal.
Nice. Makes a lot of sense. Now, were you doing something for them, like an assessment, like finding more information about their company or doing some sort of research to bring them every single meeting on the next steps?
So that's a really good question. Typically what would end up happening was they would make a theoretical recommendation for what they think they could use us for. And then we would scurry off and basically create all of this stuff. Like, we were a small company,
Yeah.
and they wanted a very hyper specific solution. So on the one side, it was great because we were nimble enough to go create this solution. But on the other side, it caused a lot of work. We would go scurry off, create this solution. We would come back to them and they would say, this looks awesome, but that's actually not the direction we want to go. We want to go in this other direction. So then we would need to scurry off. And for us, it was a lot of zigzagging,
right,
just to make sure that we could bring them what we thought they were asking for in the last meeting. And typically the next meeting we had with them was never what we thought they were going for.
Right. But what they didn't realize is every single time you're bringing it back to them, you're showing how your speed, your professionalism.
Exactly.
And you're also building that relationship, that connection.
And over delivering like that. Like, what we wanted to ensure of was our champion over there, who was the director of product quality, that she always looked good. And that if we felt like if there was one takeaway that our prospect was going to have every step of the way, it was that it was not a waste of their time to be engaging with us.
That's great. That's awesome. Now, so eventually you got to a proposal though, right?
It did. So eventually it got to a proposal. And yeah, I'll let you ask some questions, but this is where it gets.
Yeah. So I guess, with all of these back and forths and honing in on exactly what they were looking for, finally you got to a point where they say, this is what we want. What are the costs? And so tell me about how what that proposal looked like, and how you built value in that proposal itself.
Yeah, so it's a really good question. So they had actually done a pretty good job of establishing expectations. So early in the process, they had actually told us, we only have X amount of budget, and you can't get any more than that because there's literally no more of where this comes from. So we needed to understand, okay, we're going to solve these roughly needs for them. But if we want to go wider, go higher, expand the budget, we have to understand other problems they're going to solve. So throughout the process, we try to continue to pull other people and other departments and BUs in to potentially say, hey, here's what we're already doing. Can we potentially solve a similar challenge with you? Couldn't always solve the problems, but we're able to pull in enough other people to expand the budget a little bit, which is really key. Because once we were able to get to a proposal, we were able to take other budgets and then basically give them the sense that they were going to pay at X rate, but take it down ever so slightly so that there isn't that sticker shock for our prospect.
That's great. It's brilliant. Now, how did you get, or what was the conversation like to get that approval to talk to different departments with, that ulterior motive of thinking we got to find other ways we can bring more value to expand this budget?
So the biggest aspect of that was really just understanding the needs. And when other areas were mentioned, it's really just ensuring that you're across that. I think sometimes people will say like, oh, and there's this other problem, but, oh, I'm not sure that I'm actually the person to solve that. You just like, for us, we just made a small little note and said, okay, we need to follow up on this. And we would just say, hey, look, to be totally honest, like, I think you had mentioned something like this, but it sounds like you're probably not the right person. The next meeting, do you want to bring that person in or just send them an invite? No pressure, but I think it might be a good thing to just get across their desks. And because we had such a strong relationship with our champion, the answer to that question was always, yes, 100%, we should do that. And that got a number of other people, a number of other budgets into the meetings that allowed us to do additional assessments. It did elongate the sales cycle a little bit, but it also 4x the deal that we ended up getting.
Yeah, I think people that are listening got to understand that like these sort of things, there's strategy involved. You don't just go, let's just roll with this and see what happens. We just have these meetings and just do what they ask for. You got to think, you think about the deal. You think how you can provide more value to the organization. Obviously more value is a bigger deal, but you guys approached each step of the way, and each interaction is saying, how can we build that value here? And I think it requires preparation ahead of time, and even thinking we're meeting with this type of contact, how can we provide extra value to them outside of what the scope is and the deal as it is right now. And so, yeah, I think that's fantastic.
It was actually a little nerve wracking, because normally you land and expand. This was one of the very rare expand and then land.
Yeah. A lot of times you say, let's just start here. And then we'll, if this works great, we'll expand out. Yeah, exactly. But it's still, it's when you're growing it, and as a small company that you were, it took a lot of skill there and a lot of strategy. And that's pretty awesome. So then how long after you presented the proposal did the deal actually close?
So we gave the official proposal in late September. We then went through basically an entire month, maybe I actually think it was more than a month, of redlining, sending through documents, iterating on the documents. So we gave the official proposal. We gave like a soft proposal in late August, early September. That was iterated on for some time. Once we got the kind of verbal confirmation, we went in late September was the official proposal, and I think it was closed in early November. Late October.
Okay, so just to say, to keep it simple, it'd be like at least a month, because there's.
It was. I would say this was like 6 weeks to be safe.
Okay, so 6 weeks. Now, through any of that, was there something that you did, that your company did, to create urgency to get them to finally finish it up?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of different things that we did to create urgency. One was kind of built in with the holidays. Like, you had Thanksgiving, you had the New Year, and
right.
People are naturally going to be a little bit more disconnected during that time. So for us, luckily, we had some of that built-in urgency. Like, if you want to engage your customers, if you want to create that loyalty, and you want to start seeing the results of this campaign, or this project immediately, like, we've got to get this deal done. And it's not for us, like, this is for you. So some of that was just naturally built in, and it was just the time of the year. The other side of that was, we're a small growing company, and they were at one point our only enterprise prospect, our only enterprise client, but we had a number of other folks that we were going after. Like, the bottom line is, like, at the end of the day, like, we can't always give the attention that we were giving. At some point there, you got to scale.
Yeah.
And, that was the other side of this, is like, we had told them, look, we want to hire someone to continue to give you that personal attention, but we can't do that until this is signed. And if the holidays come around, the hire will not make sense until the new year.
Right.
So there were a couple of things that we did to build urgency, but to be totally honest, like, the urgency was really kind of baked in earlier in the process, because we had established that this is genuinely a need for them, and that we were filling the need. So the urgency was mostly baked in. There were a couple of like other factors that we were able to bake in later in the process, but to be honest, the urgency was already kind of there.
Yeah. And yeah, to just echo on that, it sounds like, even at the end of the year, when we're talking about the holidays, it's just logical. It just makes sense. And I think the best urgency that you can create is to relate it to the holidays and how there's just no time. I mean, you got to get it done. Yeah. And for them, if they want to build that engagement, like, I love the value there. If they want to build that engagement and connection with their own customers, you always try to give back and do things during the holidays to make them feel special. Why not have your solution at the same time to really lock them in? So this is great. So was there any sort of other competition involved in this too?
We actually did not have any competition. So there was no like battle cards needed or anything like that.
Yeah.
This was basically just a binary. Do we fit? Do we not? There wasn't any sort of an RFP, although I have plenty of stories about
Yeah.
some of that too.
We can always get to one of those later.
Yeah.
But you never know. There could have been competition in the beginning that you got, that they checked with you and then they checked with them and they thought that your company was a better fit for them. And it sounds like your approach when you first went in there to ask about what challenges they were having and, what they're trying to accomplish, it separated yourself in the beginning. So looking back, what would you say the three things were that won the deal? Critical moments.
The biggest one I think is building the relationship with our champion. That was, if we didn't have her, we wouldn't have closed this deal. So that was, I would say, that the biggest area. Kind of synonymous with that is really the second bucket is, I would say, respecting the needs, understanding the needs of the prospects, and then speaking to those needs to fill them. That's really the second. And the third, I would say, is really being able to be agile enough through this process to consistently show value and add value, as opposed to just doing hey, Derek, just checking in.
Yeah.
That would be the third.
That's great. Yeah. It's looking back on deals like this, huge deals, ones that are half the year, that you got to go, I want to keep doing this sort of thing over and over again so we get more of them. And to go from your first enterprise customer for the business, I mean, the nerves going on that sale must have been pretty insane, in general, and all the time you put into it, so it's nice that you guys won and came up with some good critical factors there. Looking back, what would you say the three things were that you do differently next time?
The biggest one easily is ensuring that other voices are heard. So in our final presentation to them, when we had the couple of folks from the C-suite, the VPs, the directors, the managers, I mean, there was about 5 of us in that meeting of folks from my organization, and about 20 from our prospects. And through that process, our CEO liked to talk. And it was a huge reason why we actually lost deals previously, was he would stand up and he would just talk for literally not going to get into it, but a long time. And he was doing that in this meeting as well. And the challenges that we had that we were able to overcome was when he started doing that, enough of us were able to chime in and ask the prospects questions to get them talking, to get them interested, that we're able to avoid some of the same slip-ups that we had in previous sales processes.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really powerful thing right there. I having multiple people in a meeting, like multiple people in the same team, it always becomes a challenge, because you say, well, what's everyone's responsibility, right? Who's saying this? Who's saying that? What values are we bringing in it? And when you're in a room, a boardroom of 20 people, I mean, they don't all just want to be there and just listen, right? They want to, some of those people might be people that want to contribute and ask questions to you and just be a part of it. And it seems like, looking back, that's one of those things that getting everyone on the same page and having a strategy for that type of meeting too matters. What other things looking back?
I think one of the other challenges we faced was aligning all of the different BUs of our prospects organization within the same deal. Because not all of the solutions were the same. It took a lot of customization to make that happen from our dev team. So there's a lot of alignment, not only with our organization, but with our prospects organization. So that, from a sales perspective, was challenging to ensure that everyone is aligned. That took a lot of time.
So you say BUs, you mean?
Business units, sorry.
Business units, got it. Yeah, because, I mean, you guys were making it you guys were expanding the sale as you were going. You were growing the opportunity. And to be able to say that we should do all of this together, I mean, you got to have some finesse there to say, this is why it all matters right now, as opposed to separating them out. You guys still found a way to make it happen though, which is good. Yeah. Obviously. That's great. Any other things, or, I mean, those are pretty powerful lessons right there.
I think the other challenge was ensuring that the right people, or the people that needed to be in the room, were in the room on both sides. Again, I think it kind of goes back to alignment, but that would be the other challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still amazed at how large of an audience you guys had, inside of that. It sounds like I mean, I don't know if you knew they were all going to be there too.
We did not, to be totally honest. We knew that we would have about 5 to 7 folks from their organization, which is part of the reason why we brought roughly that same number. We wanted to show them, okay, like, for every person that you're going to bring in, we're going to bring kind of the matching person that will help you out. And then jumping in and seeing all those people, it was definitely a little bit of a, whoa.
Yeah.
This is a serious meeting, and they are also taking it very seriously.
Yeah. Now, I guess last question along that, were the people that were in the meeting people that you guys had interacted with over the 9 months?
So I would say 50%. 50% of those that were in the meeting we had previously interacted, but 50% of them we had never met. We didn't even know their names. So that was it was a great thing to see, especially from a sales perspective. You're like, okay, this is awesome that they're taking it this seriously. But on the other side of that, you also recognize how important that meeting is, because there are so many minds that are not made up yet that you need to work with, you need to seek to understand. So ensuring that they all have the opportunity to be heard was also a challenge that you should have seen me scribbling notes in terms of who had spoken, who I felt I had a good understanding of, and who I didn't.
Yeah, I bet. Well, what a fantastic deal. Any final words of wisdom to share with the listeners to help them bring more value to their deals?
I think the biggest thing I can say is seeking to understand will help you win, as opposed to jamming what you do down the prospect's throat. Yeah,
that's huge advice. I look back on this too, and you think about all the B2B salespeople that are trying to land that gigantic account, like you guys did, this huge enterprise customer. Even if they're a small company, and even if there's someone that they're new, or maybe they just haven't been around that long, there's a lot of wisdom that you shared in your story here already about how you guys went for it. You didn't just go for it, just to try to get this deal to get your foot in the door. You guys really went after it. And there's a lot of lessons inside of how you did that. So fantastic. This has been great, Josh. If people wanted to reach out to you further to learn more about you, or ask you more questions about your experience, or even advice, what's the best way to do it?
Yeah, I love, as I love LinkedIn. Please feel free to connect with me, send me a message on LinkedIn. Love that platform, and on there quite frequently.
Awesome. So I'll make sure I include that. But I just wanted to thank you again, Josh, for being on the show. This has been awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. This was a lot of fun to talk about deals.
Great. Well, that's it for today's session, everyone. Thank you so much, Josh, for helping all of our fellow B2B salespeople out there improve our sales skills. For our listeners, if you'd like today's highlights, be sure to check out our summary on www.salesin21days.com. Have a great sales week, and we'll see you next time. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, then you have to come check out our free Top Performer Academy course. Inside it, I'll give you 12 sales tips that only the best salespeople do on a daily basis. Tips ranging from cold calling to running effective appointments, handling objections, and creating urgency in your deals. You can get it 100% free at www.modernSalesTraining.com/free. That's modernSalesTraining.com/free. These 12 tips could be the difference between you having a good month or an incredible one. I hope to see you there.